Hello everyone, welcome to episode 9 of Last Minute FPL. This is the Gameweek 9 podcast. Hi Vikas, how are you?
Can be better. How are you?
FPL wise, definitely not doing great, but doing okay otherwise.
Yeah. Pretty underwhelming game week. We'll get into it, but it really did feel like one of those, those blank game weeks where you free hit and nothing. You anyway get like only 2 points with all these like Dunk and Webster players
Yeah,
from like all these cheap teams, and it really felt like that sort of a week where just nothing happened.
yeah, pretty eventful week off the pitch though, and we'll talk about it as we come to it. But yeah, it was one of the most entertaining weeks in FPL. It would have been nice if there was something to show on the pitch for it. Okay, we'll get started with last week's points. I think this is getting repetitive now, but the AI team had an amazing week. Whatever we said till now doesn't apply to it at all. 57 points, up to 50k in the world. Captaincy blank, but apart from that, Watkins, Wood, Rogers, even Madison, Guardiola again, and then Cells just putting the icing on the cake. Yeah, insane season so far.
Yeah, I think what this is showing is a pure analytics play is turning out to be the best path here. Purely unbiased analytics approach is yielding the best results as shown by the AI team, because the AI team is just algorithm, right? Like it doesn't have any human biases or like any of the eye test, nothing involved except for just purely the data. And seemingly like the best, it's what has won the early part of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it'll still be interesting to see because, like, Haaland doing so badly for 3 games in a row, I think it's the first time in his City career. So, I mean, I'm fully expecting that to revert to the mean a bit with some good fixtures still left for him. But so far, so good for sure.
I
Um,
mean, but I wouldn't be surprised if at any point in time, when the algorithm says so, the AI team just gets in Haaland like 3 4 weeks later on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be surprised mainly because players like Palmer and Salah are projected to kind of similar points and they're so much cheaper. And unless it comes up with a team where you fit all three of them in, which seems unlikely given what we've seen so far, it could well go without Haaland for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. And I think especially with so many premium midfield options, and we'll talk about some of these forwards. A lot of the forwards are doing well at the budget option, and with Salah, Saka, Palmer, all within a few weeks having really good fixtures, it's definitely a play which may become more common than just the AI.
Yeah, I think maybe not right now, but like I'm looking at that option in the medium term at least. Maybe not for the next few weeks though. Moving on to the second team, your team, 31 points. I mean, it's not a bad score given that everyone did badly, and your transfer in also gave a return. So maybe some silver lining there.
Yeah, yeah, nothing much to say. It's very similar to my team. I was really thinking hard to pick out some positives here. And I think, yeah, it's just one thing which we can be happy about is Rogers is really exceeding expectations at his price point. Beyond that, the less said, the better.
Yeah, I mean, like Foden also. Like, what? How do you feel about it? I mean, I know he was on the bench, but I think Grealish and Doku are out for the next couple of weeks, so he should be starting Southampton at home. So that could still pay off.
Yeah, I think Foden is still pretty happy with Foden. I think okay, 4 points is fine, but really hoping that over the next few weeks, especially with the injuries mounting up the City, that it does turn out to be that one player that not very highly owned and can rack in some points in the next few weeks. I'm still pretty happy owning him.
Cool. Moving on to my team. Rounding off the three captaincy blanks on the podcast this week. And I think we had 10 out of 11 players same. And the one difference was Luis Diaz, who I was so confident that he would start. Uh, but yeah, I mean, disappointing week, of course. Again, just Rogers and Flecken maybe getting the returns. Yeah, like that's pretty much it. Quite depressing. And on top of that, I think I was pretty close to doing Saka to Son just before the deadline. I mean, it was hilarious seeing how people were trying to predict who the hooded player was who got off the Arsenal bus. I don't think I've seen something that entertaining in FPL in a long time. Like Andy Martin standing next to the signboard and predicting the height of the player. Turns out it was Timber. But yeah, like definitely regretting not making that switch. But hope. I mean, he ended up getting just 8 points, so not as bad as if he had got the assist. Another.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, damn. I mean, that was another set of drama. First getting an assist added on late and then getting that removed. It's like two levels of VAR in FPL. It should be all drama on the pitch as well.
Yeah, I think, and in previous seasons, that assist would have stayed because points at the end of the day would have stayed. But now you have time till end of the game week to make changes. I still want that Solly match goal from a couple of seasons ago. Uh, but yeah, I think like it's a bad week, but I don't think it's the end of the world.
I
Uh,
think I'm pretty happy with the fact that my transfer out were pretty good, even with a really, really rubbish week because I got rid of Saliba, got a red card, and Diaz who didn't start. So even though players like Foden got forward, given the red card goes in negatives, it's still like it could have been much much worse.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about timing of transfers. Like you were getting the bad luck of the timing of transfers earlier. So not getting negatives is also a positive score. So this is like one of those plus points for this week. Cool. Let's look at the mini league standings now. And there's been a change at the top of the table. The AI team goes straight to the top. I mean, incredible, right? Like it was languishing along with us just a few weeks ago, and now it's right up there. Like maybe we should take some inspiration from it.
Yeah, I mean, what it shows is there's a lot of swings, and I'm just thinking like, maybe it's time to play more on the analytics side than just and reducing some of the biases we have like from past seasons or just the fear factor of like not owning Haaland because what it's clearly showing and this is what like 9 weeks, 8 weeks and like which is a decent amount of data that you can really like play in a non-traditional way and still do well as long as like the the team makes sense. Of course, you don't do something really crazy, but the data holds and the projections hold and it's different from others. I think what's clearly shown is it's a really valid way to go about it.
Yeah, and I think one more thing that to keep in mind is that even while playing analytically, there are so many options. Like, I mean, Saka could have gone to Son or Palmer, and those are completely two different routes. So you can still continue being slightly different, especially for you and me. We're chasing so many people, and it won't help us to keep the exact same team as everyone else. But I think naturally that's not going to happen because everyone's going to make different decisions, and maybe I'm just consoling myself at this point. But yeah, I think there's still it's just quarter of the season.
Quarter of the season, but I'm just looking at the points tally. The AI team's almost 100 points in front. It seems like a really huge mountain.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's no softening that blow. I think Guardiola's goals have really helped for sure, along with the Palmer captaincy. Like a bunch of dominoes have really went the AI team's way. Maybe we just have to vicariously live through the AI team for the rest of the season.
What's really hurting is Haaland blanking because so much of the team is dependent with Haaland at 15 million is dependent on Haaland doing well, especially with the captaincy. And him lacking is actually devastating from a rank perspective and how well the team is doing because of also the structure to accommodate Haaland.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope, and then we'll go into it when we look at this week's matches. This could be the one game which turns it around, at least between us and the AI. Like, let's just hope the humans come out on top this time.
It's the year of AI. I don't bet on it.
Cool. Let's look at the last week's games. Yeah, I mean, a lot of eventful games here. Like, what game stood out to you?
I thought the okay, like I I can talk about the Bulls City game to maybe just start with, which was very eventful because I thought Bulls played pretty well and City were not very, very good. Like, not their usual enterprising attacking self. Wolves put up a good fight, and City grabbed literally a last minute winner. And kind of shows City's, which is also a bit worrying, owning Haaland. Of course, Southampton at home's next fixture pretty good, but they're not in full rhythm. Clear. City are not in full rhythm compared to how they were at the start. Maybe that the KDB injury has definitely caused uh, some issue there. So I'm a little bit worried. I'm right now have three City players. Not that worried for Southampton at home, but I'm definitely overloaded with City assets, and it was not comforting to see the struggle against Wolves. And on the flip side, also again interesting because Wolves fixtures are turning, and they were pretty impressive against City, and they are again like a few assets that I'm considering going forward.
Yeah, I agree with you on City. Although today they did win 5-0 at home, and Haaland scored a wonderful mid-air back heel. Yeah, like I don't know. I hope it at least helps his confidence to go for it against Southampton. The game that I want to talk about is the Spurs West Ham game. Lots of eyes were on it because many people brought Spurs players in, like Son Johnson, Solanke. I brought Solanke in. Solanke didn't look great. He kind of it was almost like he was playing the Firmino role in the Mane Salah Firmino team. Son took his goal really well. Like, it was a typical Son goal. He just dribbled past a player and scored. He also hit the post. He looked really threatening. Um, and West Ham were poor. Like, they took the lead, but they just collapsed. Although it'll be interesting to see how Bowen does in the easier fixtures, because I still think he's a quality player. But yeah, like, now that Spurs have Palace away and Villa at home in the next two, I'm not sure if maybe the ship has sailed in terms of getting them, or maybe the timing has to be better. But they still have some decent fixtures, so they could still be options.
And quickly moving on, I also caught a bit of the United Brentford game. Maybe you want to talk about that as well. But just very quick thoughts. I thought United were very impressive in the second half. They were really, really attacking, and the player that stood out to me was Garnacho. I think it was very exciting to see him kind of really taking on the shots, taking on players, and he looked very threatening. And at 6.6 million ish, is he a player to consider?
Yeah, and I think he's played 90 minutes 3 games in a row now. So he's definitely an option, in that Brennan Johnson price bracket. If you're looking to move Semenyo out, or he's definitely a good option. And yeah, I think United played well in the second half. It was like Flecken got us 4 points for a reason. Like, he made, I think, 9 or 10 saves. So yeah, good signs and like a decent fixture run coming up. Yeah, I'm not going to say something too positive about them yet, but yeah, I think Garnacho is a good option. And yeah, I can start talking about the Liverpool Chelsea game. Yeah, I mean, it was a fun game to watch for sure. Lot of chances on both ends at various times. I think both teams can feel hard done by the referee. There were some weird decisions. Salah was amazing. Like, he really steps it up in these big games. It felt like a vintage performance. Yeah, and I think Liverpool were just slightly that one level above Chelsea still. Especially defensively, Chelsea looked like they could easily get opened up. But I don't have any qualms, and like, I would like, even though Chelsea has some tricky fixtures coming up, Newcastle, United away, Arsenal, I think that their assets are still worth owning in these games, especially the attacking ones.
Yeah, I think like the one thing which was very interesting to see in that game was how Palmer got completely taken out of the game. Curtis Jones had an amazing game, like both on the defensive side, ensuring that Palmer was completely tracked, or sometimes they were double marked, and also like on the attacking side, he won the penalty. And I think I saw this quote somewhere there where Palmer said that now people are paying more attention to him, and he's getting marked. So is he going to is Is he going to find it much more difficult moving forward when teams maybe put one or two players on him? It'll definitely free up some other players like Madueke, Sancho may get more space because Palmer is getting marked so closely, and that's what happened in the Liverpool game as well. They had more space down the wings because Liverpool really clogged the center, trying to cut the spaces there. Which I don't know, like it depends on Newcastle, United, Arsenal next three games. It'll be interesting to see whether other teams also kind of follow a similar approach of just marking Palmer out of the game and seeing how Palmer kind of gets out of that situation.
Yeah, but I think one thing with Palmer though is like he's still so involved. Like he takes all the set pieces. He could have easily got that assist in the very last minute, like with the header going over. He'll take penalties if there are any penalties, and he's still very much the central figure. But yeah, I think the same thing is kind of happening to him. What has happened to Haaland, where people just started putting two defenders on him permanently. And I think that's the smart thing to do as well. Like not every team should play like Brighton did against Chelsea. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. But I think Newcastle and United in the next two, they're not the most defensively disciplined right now. Newcastle historically can be, but they haven't looked that solid. So I wouldn't be too concerned about owning Palmer. Maybe because I brought him in this week, but yeah. I have to stay the
He's
part.
a quality player. Like you said, he brings points in so many different ways, and he's the type of guy where he'll be quiet and then he'll suddenly explode with 20 points in a game.
Hope so. Hope the explosion and not the quietness. Okay. Yeah, and quickly touching upon the Bournemouth Arsenal game also, because Arsenal is such a FPL team of FPL interest, and Bournemouth like really stepped it up. Arsenal without Odegaard and Saka didn't really create much. Um, yeah, and like Semenyo was unlucky not to get a return, honestly. Um, and yeah, also same thing with Calvert Lewin. I don't know what's going on in his head. Created so many
His
chances.
XG was like so high in this game, like 1+, and
Yeah.
he's missing a lot of chances. I think he's a player that I really wish I could really move on, but not again like a player worth transferring out because there are just other high value targets to get.
Yeah, and like Wood has really stamped his authority as that best mid budget forward option. When we were doing our wild card, it was basically Calvert Lewin or Wood, and it's gone only one way. And the switch fixtures done too, so that's one of the good ones. Cool. Let's move on to the team stats. We'll start with the attack. Tottenham are still first in this list. And like if you see, there's four teams that are consistently expected to score 2 goals a game. So that's Spurs, Liverpool, Chelsea, and City. And like if you own the best asset in each of these teams, maybe you expect them to be involved in at least one. So yeah, I think good signs for attackers from these four teams still.
Yeah, and again, like Bournemouth again, so impressive. I know Arsenal got a red card, but they went toe to toe with Arsenal, like even before the red card. Semenyo is a little bit frustrating. He's like a player who you always feel like he's going to get points, but he just shoots a lot. Like his accuracy of shooting is not great, but he's always in the positions which can be more clinical. But Bournemouth are a really good team. Bournemouth, Fulham are the teams to watch. I don't think like sometimes when you see in the fixtures Bournemouth at home, Fulham away, they're not easy fixtures. I don't think, given how we've seen them so far this season.
Yeah, and I also want to add that Arsenal too, like they're at 1.7, but there's I think this was the third game where they got a red card, and they were playing with 10 men for the majority of the game, and they also don't have Odegaard and Saka, so I would still classify Arsenal along with the top four here if they have a full. Of course they have some tough fixtures coming up, but apart from that, I think they're still up there with the elite teams.
It's crazy to see Tottenham so high. Like the best attacking team is. I mean, it just shows how Ange wants to play, and that they just really need to focus on their defense because they clearly have one side of their team like really coming along.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the defense. Uh, yeah, I think one thing that like we noticed last week that Villa was up in this table, and I'm trying to make decisions based on data, like we discussed. So I'm planning to bench Semenyo currently, which might mean having to make another transfer to move Diaz on. Because I mean, these are great numbers. They're like between City and Liverpool, and they've been doing well in the Champions League. They're top of the table in the Champions League. So maybe it's time to think of them as a much
A
more
top
solid
team.
team. Yeah.
But they are a top team. They're a top 4 team, I think. Even if they're not top 4, they're top 5 maybe. I think they are one of the teams to avoid on the fixture list for sure.
Yeah, and yeah, in terms of the teams to target, I think that's kind of still similar. We have Ipswich, Southampton, Leicester, who are clearly the worst defenses, and Wolves. I know that they did well against City. I think they've moved up. Like they were also somewhere near Ipswich's numbers, but now they've gone below 2. Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and talking about Southampton, and there's a certain Mr. Erling Haaland who's up against Southampton at home, and it's really interesting to see, early thoughts on triple captain there.
Yeah, and like we'll definitely talk about it. Like I actually have a slide that uh, yeah, like let me just pull this up because these are basically the bookmaker odds for how many goals a team is expected to score, and Man City is expected to score 3.35 goals in this game. The other fixtures that you see here are the best odds that teams had in the previous game weeks. So Man City against Ipswich was also 3.35, and like we didn't go for the triple captain, and Haaland ended up getting a hat trick. And like if you look at the other fixtures, also they did end up being quite high scoring. Like Arsenal Wolves 2.95, 2 goals, 2 goals, 3 goals, except for Liverpool Nottingham Forest. Everything else was actually pretty high scoring. So this might just be the best fixture that's left in the season. And we said the same thing about City Ipswich, but maybe it was just too early in the season to go with the triple. I'm actually seriously considering it, especially because Haaland got a brace today in the Champions League too. I don't know if I have the guts to stay with it because like usually I do wait for the doubles and look to see what the rest of the season looks like before making that decision. But maybe this is the kick that my season needs. What about you?
Yeah, I'm still, I think I'm considering the triple captaincy as well, but just a little bit worried about. I shouldn't be. You said final today, and they're always up for goals, but the only worry that I have is if Haaland gets rested in this game, because I think City have like 7 fixtures in 20 days or something like that, and if they go 2-0 up, 1 or 2-0 up, it's a good time to kind of take Haaland off early. Maybe like Gundogan false 9. Pep can do these types of things. So that's the only thing I'm a little bit hesitant on, and also just kind of keeping that triple captaincy in the back pocket for like maybe a game week 38 triple captaincy, which could be super fun on the last game week of the season. Depending on where the league table is, maybe go for a differential and take that risk as compared to like a Haaland, who anyway everyone's going to captain. So those are the two things that are steering me away from the captaincy. But what's steering me towards the captaincy is this is maybe the best fixture. And so from a points perspective, this is the game where you probably will get the most points from. Since you're expected to get the most points from triple captaincy.
Yeah, I think great point about the game time. That's something I didn't pay too much attention to. It would be very disappointing if he didn't get the full 90 minutes for whatever reason. Yeah, something to keep in mind. And yes, this may be the best. Look at me, I'm just convincing myself not to do it now. But this may be the best fixture, but there will be, like we've looked at those 3-4 teams to target who are consistently conceding more than 2 xg per game. So as long as you have a big team playing against them, I think there will be other opportunities. Like you'll have Salah against them, Son against them, Palmer against them. But I do think Haaland is one step above all of them. Like I would feel more comfortable triple captaining him in a single game week, and that's basically the reason. I'm still gonna keep considering it.
You know what's gonna happen? Like probably if we don't play it now, and there's like a washout and Everton get a double game week, I'm gonna end up triple captaining DCL. That's exactly what's gonna happen, and I can foresee this regret right now.
I mean, maybe that I mean unless that something crazy happens, like this season we're only expected to get two double game weeks, so hopefully we don't end up doing something like that, like Dennis in the past, or like Dunk, some of these famous double game week captaincies that went south. Yeah, Calvert-Lewin seems like a like a possibility.
Yeah, and shout out to Rob, the FPL, for these graphics as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot for letting us use them. We have one more of his graphics to discuss the next game week fixtures. This is a wonderful view because it not only shows you the fixtures that are gonna come next week, but also shows you the projected goals and clean sheet odds. This is basically based on the bookies odds, and I think they're quite knowledgeable. Definitely, and I think this makes sense also. Like you can see the darker shaded numbers, which shows you which teams are most likely to get a lot of goals or clean sheets. And I think the City Southampton fixture stands out as a lopsided one.
Yeah, I think great fixture as like a standalone thing. It's just, do you want to save that chip for the future or just go for it now? That's really the main decision point.
Yeah, and in terms of which teams to target in terms of transfers, um, there are like a few teams that are expected to score two goals or more. So Brentford, like Mbuemo, Chelsea, Spurs is almost at two, and surprisingly Brighton, Wolves as well. Um, yeah, so I guess Villa, Bournemouth is also quite close.
It's
But
interesting to see Chelsea having more expected goals against Newcastle than Spurs versus Palace. I think that's definitely an interesting stat that really stands out here.
yeah, I think this was one of the things that played into me. So I did Saka to Palmer earlier today, and like my other alternative was Son. And this is the third time in the season I'm considering Son and not going for him. The previous two times he punished me, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen. And Palmer was projected to get more points by a lot of models as well than Son for this week. Maybe it's it being Palace away, maybe it's being Newcastle's drop in form, and maybe just Palmer has risen in stock. But it seems like a pretty unanimous thing amongst like odds and models that Chelsea's expected to. I mean, but it is marginal, right? Like anything can happen in a single game week. But yeah, I would be a little uncomfortable going with Son for Palace away. Like maybe if I'd brought him in last week, I would have no problems playing him. It's not a bad fixture at all. But I didn't want to get him in with this game and then Villa next, and which is why I went for Palmer.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and looks like the West Ham United game is a very close one, like 1.55 versus 1.7. So it'll be interesting to see where United actually stands. And of course, the Arsenal Liverpool game is also a very close one, 1.5, 1.33. So it'll be interesting to see that game.
Mm-hmm.
Mid-table close game was, and then a top of the table close game. Cool. Let's move on to the easiest fixtures. Um, yeah, I think United are right up there in both attack and defense, right?
Yeah, United fixtures definitely turning. And, I mean, they're West Ham, Chelsea, Leicester, Ipswich, Everton, all really good fixtures for attackers. I mean, it's you got to jump on those players now, not wait for like 2-3 weeks. I think because then you lose the really good set of fixtures. So jumping on a Garnacho at 6 million, I think it seems like a very reasonable thing to do. Maybe even Bruno, but Bruno, I think there's more argument not going for Bruno because of the price. Garnacho definitely, I think, is worth considering given the fixtures. The other fixtures, other teams with standout fixtures: Brentford, Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, Leicester. In the next five: Everton, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham, Brentford, United. Next five, and Wolves fixture, though improving, it's going to get better from now on. But the next five is still not absolutely the best, but they have a really green fixture on for a much longer time. So Wolves players, you can bring them in and like hold them for quite some time. They're definitely showing up in terms of the teams with improving fixtures. But really, if you look at teams that also have been showing good attacking stats, Brentford, Man United, I think we spoke about their fixtures. So Mbuemo, Visa, Garnacho really stand out there. Spurs and Chelsea as well. I think these are the teams to look at from both a fixture perspective and good attacking data.
Makes sense. Yeah, I have nothing to add. That was very thorough.
Yeah, and from a defensive side, Forest still showing up strong. So not many options actually for defense this year. I think clean sheets have been pretty hard to come by. Liverpool have pretty much been the only reliable team for clean sheets, but Forest have done well. I think on the mid-priced assets, Forest and Everton are kind of like looking pretty good from a defensive perspective. Um, Spurs as well are putting up good defensive data, although they're not keeping as many clean sheets. But Fulham and Chelsea, Forest, Spurs are the ones that are coming up both from a fixture perspective and good data.
Yeah, and shout out to Everton and Mikolenko for getting that 7-pointer on the bench. Thanks for that. Cool. Let's look at the tough fixtures now.
Yeah, I think we spoke about Bowen. Kudus again was like doing pretty well from a data perspective, but West Ham's fixtures are certainly not that not that easy, especially when you think about the teams they're facing from how strong their defenses are. They have Man United, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, Arsenal, Everton, which is certainly not easy. So I think West Ham not the time to target yet. Maybe in the future. Arsenal's fixtures definitely toughening up. I think there's more leeway again with some of the forwards and midfielders, but I got rid of Saliba. I think a double Arsenal defense would make me a bit concerned at this point in time, and maybe when Saka at 10 million may not be the wisest of investment at that price point.
Yeah, and interesting to see City here as well. So they're like in the middle in terms of difficulty, right? Like this is like 11th. Yeah.
Yeah, and the main thing is I think they have Liverpool away fifth fixture from now, which is definitely like denting some of their good fixtures in the next three. So they do have really good fixtures in the next three with Southampton at home, Bournemouth, and Brighton. Then they have Spurs and Liverpool. Spurs putting up good numbers, Liverpool again really strong. So I think that's really denting City's next fight.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good time to go into our position-wise analysis. Let's start with the forwards. I mean, no surprises in terms of Haaland being at the top, but I think week on week Jackson is really rising up the statistics tables. Like he's outperforming his XG. He's got a return a game. He even scored against Liverpool. And I see that you've put him in the buy list as well. So I wanted to spend some time talking about him.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about it again. Like if I'm not able to get Palmer, Jackson is doing well. Like he's, I think, cemented his spot for now. He is putting up really good numbers. He's getting into dangerous positions, and he seems like a player to own. To I wouldn't say cover Palmer, but at least get some coverage from Chelsea's attacking points. So that's why I've put Jackson in the buy list, especially if you're thinking about Chelsea attack and you can't get to Palmer, or you're looking to get Son instead of Palmer or Salah instead of Palmer, then Jackson's a good buy. Also have Strand Larsen and Raul Jimenez. Again, some of these cheaper forwards are doing well. Jimenez and Strand Larsen both great fixtures. Not to expect the world from Strand Larsen at 5-5. I think Cunha another great option, but again, I'm thinking about from more team structure perspective. If I need to get rid of, say, a Solanke or Strand Larsen, it helps me upgrade in midfield. So if you really do something like that, I think great buys at this moment.
Yeah, and interesting to see that Welbeck has stayed in this list consistently. He got an injury, but the other person who's made an entrance onto this and I've recommended as keep is Calvert-Lewin. He's I don't think this is the time to spend transfers on that position, the cheap budget forward. He still has a couple of good games, and it's not the end of the world to get that 2-pointer, that weekly 2-pointer that is going to be there. Like that's kind of like comfort food. But no, jokes aside, also I think it's worth keeping him for another couple of weeks. He got the chances, and like he is still has some quality there. The player I've said to avoid is Solanke for same reasons why I said Spurs have a medium-ish fixtures now. Maybe the timing is not the best, and I would also wait and watch because the previous two games he wasn't so heavily involved in getting the chances. and the player I'm suggesting to sell is Havertz. Two reasons. One is that without Odegaard and maybe Saka won't be there again, Arsenal haven't really been creating much, and also fixtures are toughening up. So maybe there are players who you can move to who have better fixtures.
Makes sense. For keep, I have Haaland. I think pretty obvious for Southampton. I think there's genuine worry at this point, like especially given how how much more you can get from the team by selling him. But I'd still keep him for like maybe the next 2 to 3. So Haaland's in keep. Avoid have Havertz and Watkins. I think I didn't put them in sell because some of these attacking players, if they can still get points in any game, so I just didn't put them in sell. But again, like these are players I would not target because purely from fixture perspective and other options. And sell I have Nketiah and Mateta. I think just looking at Crystal Palace, they don't look good at all at this moment. And from forward perspective, forward data wise, they're pretty much the worst. They're the worst. Both Nketiah and Mateta, they have the worst data amongst all forwards in terms of XG, XGI. You take any metric, and they're at the bottom of that list.
Yeah, I think about Watkins, it's interesting because he's been returning weekly. Like he's been pretty much scoring every week, but he's also steadily dropped in the AI projections each week. Like he's gone down to eighth, and you see Wood, Wissa, Jackson, even Raul is like above him. It'll be interesting to see when the AI team moves out of him. I think they play Bournemouth this week, so it should still be a decent game. But yeah, I agree with you on Palace. Like they've just been super uninspiring, and it's almost like keeping them out of faith. Um, okay, let's move on to midfielders, and I think this is where a lot of my thought process has been in the last few days, and probably in the next couple of weeks also. I think this is where I want to spend my transfers and maximize the good fixtures out of. Yeah, I think like one thing that like I was considering was the Palmer and Son move, but a knock-on effect of that was like should I get Salah back at any point? Basically, FPL review is also strongly suggesting that people sell Haaland next week and get Salah back in. It's not a decision to be made this week, but do you have Salah on your radar at all? Because he wasn't on mine till I looked at the model.
Yeah, I mean, Salah is just looking amazing this season. And not just he looks on it, like his goal scoring record. I mean, it's still a great goal scorer, but he's passing like KDB. Like just if you look at the way he's creating chances in that game, he is in he is passing the ball magnificently from the right wing. So I think he looks really on it, and he's a player that I really wished that I can have in my team because I think he can be like really consistent through the season. And in midfield, you still get those additional points, like with goals and clean sheet points and so on.
Yeah, I
And it
think
looks like we have the same players in buy.
yeah, it's the exact
But
exact same three players. And we already spoke about Palmer and Son, but I think Brennan Johnson has been like outperforming his price actually. Like he also played 90 minutes last game because he was the only one who didn't score. So I think like even Ange understood that like he really wants to score. Like because he took off Son, he even took off Solanke. But Brennan got 90 minutes. I think that's a good sign, and he might be my second transfer this week to replace Luis Diaz. I think that at his price, it's an okay risk to take. Even though I feel they have a couple of tricky fixtures. He's been in a good run of form, and like he's not a premium player who you're almost desperate to score every week. So and they also have an Ipswich game coming up. So those are my reasons for Johnson and Bye.
yeah, exact same thing. I think he's taking up good positions and showing good data, pretty good fixtures for the next few. I think he's that price point. He's a very strong option. I have Mbuemo, Semenyo, and Foden in keep. Uh, Semenyo again very wayward, but he's taking shooting, he's getting chances. So still in keep. Mbuemo, great fixtures. Foden, I think I'm really excited about the next few 2, 3. At least that I think like especially if you're chasing, not many are going to own Foden. Could be a differential, so that's why I have him in keep. Avoid Saka, especially if he's not injured. I wouldn't. There's still an argument. I'm still thinking about whether to keep him or sell him. So I haven't put him in sell. If he's injured, then he obviously goes to probably a sell. Um, yeah, and I think you pointed out Diaz and sell. I would sell Diaz too, given he's not sure of stats.
Yeah, I think about Saka, um, yeah, I mean, I'm fully certain he's going to play this weekend after everyone needed him to play last. But with the fixtures, I think it's still an opportunity to move on to someone else. There is some uncertainty about how Arsenal are playing. And like, even if it's reduced minutes, like he could get an early sub, there is an opportunity to go to Palmer or Son. I think the AI team specifically is probably going to do Saka to Johnson if he's not playing. I think if he's going to play, it'll keep Salah. I mean, Saka. But one thing that I've also added in avoid is Bruno and Eze. Both of them are really like have underperformed this season. Eze is really liked by all the models. The AI team also has him sixth, but FPL review especially really rates him highly. My recommended transfers were basically to do Palmer in for Saka and Eze in for Diaz, but I just can't bring myself to do that. He's playing Spurs, which is not a bad game defensively, but Palace have just looked so confused and out of sorts. I just don't want to go there.
Yeah, I think there's no point in risking it and going that differential because how much are you even going to gain with SA? Maybe like, that you can get other players like Johnson or Garnacho who seem like more exciting picks, but
Yeah, I think one thing though, their fixtures do ease up after that. Like they do have some a good run of games, and like he has shown in the past that he'll score a lot of goals. But I don't want to be the guinea pig, like risking it and being that differential. So yeah, I'll probably be doing Diaz to Johnson by the deadline. Cool. Let's look at defenders. Uh, Let me just pull it up. Yeah, I think again we both have Ait Nouri in the buy. I think we spoke about Wolves fixtures getting better and them looking better against City. I've also added Pinnock um, because Brentford's fixtures do get better. Their fixtures are improving after that United game, and I think he's at his price point. He's someone exciting. I know he's scored a couple of goals already, so maybe it's unlikely that he'll score again. But uh, but I think I like him as an FPL pick, and at that price point, I mean I think you just go with whoever you like.
yeah, yeah. And fair shout. I think I've just had enough of Brentford with Flecken thinking of the team. But he's gotten more points than Raya, I think, since the since the wild card. Um, the the players that I have in the buy list, similar Aitnori thing, self-explanatory, good fixtures, cheap and attacking potential. Not sure about clean sheet, but cheap and attacking still is good. I have Delict and Robinson and Dogi as well. Delict because again United fixtures, he looks pretty attacking. Like he could get, he could be like a Gabriel of United. I don't know, but his data looks good. Could get uh, that headed goal. Looks pretty threatening in corners. So have Delict there. Robinson, I haven't buy, but I'm still having second thoughts here because Fulham's fixtures are good, but Fulham also have some defensive concern with injuries to Anderson and so on. But I think again, like attacking potential, good fixtures. So Robinson and Udogi, cheaper than Poro, and he has better data than Poro over the last four. Actually, looking at it, so he is also pretty attacking. Spurs have good defensive data, believe it or not. So that's my buy list.
That's a good shout, Yudogi. I think I would feel more comfortable spending that lesser amount on a Spurs defender because they don't seem to be that solid. But again, at that price, it may be worth it. One thing though, what about Trent? Like this seems to be the week if you are looking for a team structure with one lesser premium defender. This is the time to sell Trent. Like if you're not selling him now, then just go back to keeping him for the long term. Is that on your mind at all? Like, is that, or like, what would you advise managers who are considering selling Trent to maybe get an extra premium in midfield?
I think I would have done that last week. I think it's already maybe like a
Yeah.
week too late selling Trent because okay, this is a bad fixture, but then the three after that they have Brighton at home, Villa at home, and Southampton away. Given Liverpool's data, those three could be clean sheets for Liverpool, or two out of three could clean sheets with some attacking potential. So I think maybe it's like a week too late, but again, it depends on if you can go to Trent to like a Ait Nouri and then upgrade to get a Salah. Like Salah, I think is better option to have than Trent. So you can upgrade like a Saka to a Salah, or you can get an additional premium midfielder. Then it's probably could be worth it. And it need not be like fixture dependent itself. That could just be a team structure thing, which could extend beyond like even through Liverpool's easier fixtures.
Yeah, I echo your thoughts too. That's why I've kept him in keep because I just don't want to disturb that Trent and Gabriel spot anymore. I mean, Gabriel, unless like if Rea's not, I mean, if Arsenal's not improving, they don't have Saliba as well. And that could be the only reason I move him out. But otherwise, I'm happy to just keep them as like fixed spots in my team and just play around with the attacking players. I shouldn't have Saliba and keep. I have him in sell. Definitely don't keep Saliba. He's got a red card. He's not gonna play. Uh, but yeah.
Yeah, I have same similar thoughts. Gabriel and keep, Saliba and sell for the red card. Gabriel, uh, not worth at the moment. I feel not worth wasting a transfer in just like moving around. I'm pretty happy with my team structure, but I can see a reason to get rid of Trent, especially because it does free up a lot of money to make some upgrades into field.
Yeah, and I think with both Gabriel and Trent, like if you look at the statistics page, Trent has an XGI of 0.36 per appearance, which means every 3 games he's expected to get a return, an attacking return, and that hasn't happened so far. But you can't predict who that will happen against. Like it could be in one of the tougher games. And Gabriel also has a zero point 0.2 XGI, which means 1 in every 5. So it's just worth keeping them in the medium to long term unless you're making a very important structure change to the team.
Yeah.
And yeah, which is why I think what you said makes sense. It is worth it if you're getting someone like Salah in midfield.
What do you think about Guardiola? I think he is a player that's picking up a lot of interest. Unfortunately, as soon as I got rid of him, he has back-to-back goals. Um,
I know how that feels with Gabriel, so it's I think it's a feature of this podcast. Uh, and yeah, I also noticed that this is the first time he's making an appearance in the statistics top 10 as well. Like he's ninth in the XGI list
yeah.
for defenders. He's another one of those I think you can just keep for now, like
And
because
the point of it is Ake is back. So will that play into the minutes of Guardiola? Not sure. Maybe gets rested more often now.
yeah, I'm not even going to try predicting what Pep does. So far, Guardiola and Lewis seem to be playing every single game. Like Lewis is even playing 90 minutes in the Champions League. I don't know what's going on there. And because Lewis is there as an option, a cheaper option, I'm happy to sacrifice that goal threat and just go get a buy-in into City defense for cheap. Um, but yeah, and I think Guardiola is of the same, maybe slightly less nailed than Gabriel and Trent, but similar set and forget type of a player.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the keepers now. Um, yeah, once again, I'm not suggesting to make any keeper transfers. But yeah, sells with 11 pointer. Like what an amazing return for owners.
Yeah. I mean, and especially in this type of week, right? Like it's one third my points. Uh, yeah, I mean, I echo the same thoughts. I just put Sells and Pickford because if I had to choose a wild card and select some players, these are the players I'd go for. Pretty cheap, 4.5, 4.8, and like, what about that? Mid fours. And they're the two teams that give me some comfort from a defensive perspective, apart from Liverpool.
And I think Raya hasn't worked out so well in the last few weeks. Like if Arteta hadn't trapped us and we would have ended up with Raya and Gabriel, it would have been a little more tricky to move out of that double defense. Cool. Let's look at our next week's teams now. Let me just pull that up. Yeah, let's start with the AI team. So far, no transfers. Palmer captain, of course, like it captain Palmer versus Liverpool away. So definitely Palmer captain for Newcastle home. I think the candidate moves depend on team news. I think maybe it's time for Diaz to go because his X-Men's seem to be low. He didn't start in the Champions League also, but I don't know how to interpret it. Does that mean he's going to play? Does that mean he's not in the first choice team? I think it might mean he's not in the first choice team. So the candidate moves are basically Diaz or Saka out, and I think Brennan Johnson and Salah are the options. but I don't think it's easy to get to Salah. Johnson will likely come in for one of them for sure, irrespective of what happens. Um, and I think De Bruyne is also highly rated, but he doesn't seem to be fully back yet. And I think after that it's Eze. So I don't know. This could be another one of those AI moments where it goes for Eze and he starts stopping.
Yeah, I mean, analytics for the win.
Okay, and then Rogers on the bench, so it could even just bench
Yeah,
Diaz if he doesn't look like he's gonna play. Yeah, I think otherwise good looking team.
they look really strong actually, like more than good looking.
I think
Yeah,
the
this.
Arsenal Liverpool game is a little like it has 4 players from it, but it'll probably lose 2, so maybe that'll look nicer.
Do you think it's worried about not owning Haaland? Somewhere internally in the model's brain.
I mean like since I wrote the code, I'm definitely worried for it. Like definitely, I feel like this is the week where it will be brought back down to earth a bit. Like it already experienced it twice with 2 hat tricks. Just directly losing 34 points is a big rank drop. Um, but yeah, because now I think a lot of other players also have Palmer. So and if it does something like Saka to Johnson, it doesn't look like it can make that kind of a gap up in one week. So definitely worried for it. Um, Moving on to my team. Yeah, so my team, I made one move. Like I said, I bought Palmer in for Saka, and considering Diaz to Johnson, that'll likely be my move. Benching Semenyo based on Villa's data. Captaining Haaland, I don't think I have it in me to triple captain him. But otherwise, like again, happy with the team on paper yet again. Maybe Gabriel and Trent is not ideal in those fixtures, but apart from that, quite happy with the team.
Are you gonna get Luis Diaz out? Yeah.
Yeah, probably for Johnson. Or like the other alternative will be to play Semenyo and bench Diaz if I want to
Aren't you
push.
with Garnacho maybe?
No, I'm not doing that.
Not doing that.
I have enough. Like clearly, I have enough things to feel bad about in FPL already. I don't want an extra emotional involvement. Um, yeah,
That was
so I think your team is pretty similar, except you have Foden, but you still have Saka, so you haven't made any moves yet. Do you have any candidate moves, or are you looking to save?
no. I think I'll very likely. I think there's some injury worry with Son. If that looks good, I'll probably move Saka to Son. That's the most likely move. Uh, the other thing is Semenyo versus Calvert Lewin. I'm not sure. Still kind of thinking about that. And the triple captaincy. I think whether to triple captain Haaland or not is another thing that I'll probably leave to the last minute. But apart from that, I think it looks pretty okay this week. Not very happy with the defense, but the defense has not been like a useful source of points anyway. Uh, so yeah, I think I'm really excited about the next few weeks of having Son and Foden. I don't think a lot of people are going to have Son and Foden. They're going to be the lowest owned premium midfielders. If they kind of hit it off, it's an opportunity for me to climb the ranks, and I'll certainly keep my fingers crossed.
I think Son's fit. Like Ange did say that he was tired after the game, or I think he said he had some knock, but he said he wouldn't have played anyway in the in Europe. So I think that it's good that he was completely left out, and he has time to recover. I think he'll be fine for the weekend.
Hopefully, I'm really hoping for that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks for listening to us, and we look forward to next week. Hopefully, with a Haaland haul for both our sakes.
And if there's anything else that you'd like for us to kind of do from an analysis point of view, do let us know in the comments, and also like what you think about it, and any other feedback as well. Please feel feel free to leave a like, or even if you go so far as to subscribe. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, and join our mini league. We would always like more people to try catching up to. Okay, thank you.